Hi. Yes, I'm the same one. The hair changed a lot, but I'm still the same one here and there. So, okay, thank you very much for this presentation. I have to warn you that, okay, when Julia proposed me this, I have like a fantastic enlightenment, and I thought, okay, what can be my topic? And I thought, aesthetic expectations on dance. And it sounds fantastic, and as she says, a very catchy title. And then I got completely insecure because I'm surrounded by scientists, and then I say, okay, I have to find an edge to this point. No, what can I do? What can I bring from the inside, from the dance world? No. And I thought that one thing I could do is also to start like a little journey, history journey with all of you. Because there are many things we take for granted, and this is what I realized preparing this talk, but we are still so much influenced by things that happened hundreds of years ago and even thousands of years ago. And when we go to theater, in this case, just to delimit, in this case, to go to watch dance, I found out that we are very much influenced by people and things in our history, okay? So what I want to say to you, one of the things that it can sound like we all take it for granted, but since the beginning of mankind, humans have danced. Once human beings have the primordial needs covered, like shelter, food, water, they were feeling secure, one of the first things they've done is to dance. We've been dancing with gods, we've been dancing with the elements, we've been dancing to Mother Earth. We are dancing, and they're still dancing to become women, to become men. We're still dancing, being possessed by gods, by entities. So I think we can agree that dance is an intrinsic activity in human nature, that is something that we have in ourselves. This is like not such a good quality, but they are like 12,000 years old. They're from the Libyan desert. It's a cave in the Libyan desert. As you can see, I mean, this is like it is known by the anthropology and the archaeologists. They are dancing, so it's something that has been with us since the beginning of mankind and the awakening of time. Okay, but I also need to say you something, because I'm gonna do this journey with you, but I'm biased. I'm completely biased because I realize also that I come from a very classical background. My education is classical ballet, and I was dancing and working 20 years first mostly as a classical dancer, neoclassical, and I arrived to contemporary ballet. I know, and I say it, I'm biased, but I also realize that I could turn it and transform it and can use it to make this journey. Because from now on, you're also gonna hear me often to talk about dance, and especially about classical ballet, as a language and a grammar. We speak a language. We use a grammar, okay? I'm just throwing ideas, and I hope that they make this journey more interesting. Why I'm showing you this? This is Laocoon, of course, I imagine all of you know. It's Laocoon and his sons. Is 1st century before Christ, and this sculpture group in the 18th century, it was already the reason something happened in theory of literature and aesthetics, and it was this amazing essay from Gothron Ephraim Lessing, 1766, and it was an essay upon the limits of painting and poetry. And I'm using this, and I will come back to him afterwards, because it's something that Julia already mentioned. We realized preparing this talk that what means aesthetics for all of us is completely different. It's like the same like talking English. I'm not English, I'm Spanish. And the way sometimes I say things in English is completely Spanish, but they don't make sense. Happens. And we speak too fast. But we realized preparing this because Julia says like, yeah, but it's like, aesthetic is like, we don't mean the same. And of course I was bringing this because we go back to what aesthetics is from a philosophical point of view. We know now, and she already said it, thank you very much, is the study of beauty, is this a study of the aesthetic experience with beauty. But here I go. She says, I'm the inside person, I have to tell you what happens in the inside, at least through my experience. What do we understand, dance people, dance people, at least with my experience. I'm not talking on behalf of everyone. But what do we understand? We say we have to fulfill aesthetic expectations. And for us, this means something completely different, because that means that we have to fulfill forms on our common ideal grammar. We have to fulfill the embodiment of explicit forms with accuracy. Okay, come back. I'm biased, I'm classical ballet, no? So we have an alphabet. We are working with ideal forms. I mean, I say this is biased, but it can be completely also applied to Graham, Cunningham, Lemon. We can do all that because, and this modern technique and classic is the same. We have to fulfill the ideal of the forms, which is exactly the same. If I want you to understand me, I have to be slower talking and fulfilling each word. It's the same. Again, we have an alphabet. With this alphabet, we build up words, and then we can build up absolutely and completely choreographic phrases. So for us, yeah, I know, but I'm a bit nervous, so always dancing makes some magic in it. Okay, so I hope it was clear. For us, this is one of the major aesthetic expectations coming from classical background. We have to fulfill the embodiment of these explicit forms with accuracy, so you can understand us. Okay, but not only that, I also realized preparing this, I know, this is most of you for sure, you know, this is a dance macabre. This is a dance of death in the late Middle Ages. This happened through the whole Europe, and it was through the dancing with death that death was equalizing with its power every single human. It was not a theater piece. It was not singing. And I'm repeating this again. It was through dance. It didn't matter if you were a king, a queen, a priest, or a farmer. We were becoming all equal. So what I want to show you with this is dance is not only an intrinsic activity of our nature. Dance from the beginning has been a political tool, a moral tool, a political weapon, a moral weapon, and an artistic one. So, and from now on, there is a series of French gentlemen that are going to be important, setting the French, they're always there. And they're going to be very important setting what I call, and for us, they're aesthetic expectations. And of course, I only could start with Louis XIV, Le Roi Soleil. And it was in 1653 when Jean-Baptiste Lully choreographed Le Royal Ballet de la Nuit, the Royal Ballet of the Night, and the king becomes the sun. And it's the biggest political statement in whole Europe. And it was, one more time, it was not an opera, and it was not a theater piece. It was a ballet. And the whole known universe is dancing around the sun. And this is the king. If you remember, he said the famous phrase, "L'État, c'est moi, I am the state." This was, again, the setting of some important aesthetic expectations. Everything moves, everything dances around me. Also, I want to say you something that it can seem like some coincidence, but it's not. He was the creator of l'Académie Royale de la Danse that we all know today as Paris Opera. And Paris Opera is one of the main places where the codification of classical ballet grammar happened the last 400 years. So, and another French gentleman, for those ones that don't know, allow me to introduce Jean-Georges Noverre, 1727-1810. He wrote a book that it was also, and it's been seminal for many hundreds of years for dance. They are like lettres sur les arts imitateurs en général et sur la danse en particulier. They are the letters of the imitating arts in general. Remember aesthetics, philosophical, imitating arts. So we are one of the imitating arts. And about the dance in particular. And Noverre says something that we still in 2021, we are much more influenced than what we think. He is telling us in this book that dance must move spectators with its passion. I know, but we're still 1760. It's almost like, it's almost 300 years later. And many people, many spectators, they still go to the theater expecting to be moved by passions, by the passions that we put on top of our interpretation, of our execution. So, okay, here we go. I'm jumping centuries, and I know I'm doing it very fast. Welcome, because I intend to come here to the 21st one. Welcome to the first full-length romantic French ballet. It's called La Sylphide. It's 1832, and it is choreographed by Filippo Taglioni. Okay. This is also the setting up of another of our aesthetic expectations. I mean, I'm not talking your aesthetic expectations, I'm talking in general. Because this is when it starts, everybody is waiting to see, especially female dancers, in a certain way. This is the beginning. This is when these ethereal, non-human creatures come to life. This is for the first time in history of the French ballet when the female is coming to be the center of the stage. Is when she gets the whole attention. This is when we start seeing all these creatures that they are like monsters because they are non-human, and they have a mobility that is not seen. They come from the forest and they come into the private spaces. They come to the center of the home, to the heart of the homes. So this is the setting of this femininity at the beginning of the Romanticism. This was not happening before, and this is everything that comes and is influencing is started at this point. Also, I want to say you something, because this is a double-faced weapon also, because these non-human creatures, this character, they were also a reflection of the problems and the fears they were having in society. Women were becoming very movable, like they were moving in society, they started being very visible, and you have to understand, the French Revolution was not so far away, and this is the times of the July and French Revolution. The women were everybody. So start thinking also about the setting, these subtle aesthetic settings where the outsiders, they are female, non-human witches, monsters, because this is also happening since these times. Okay, another one of our heroes, maybe some of you know, this is the second act of Giselle. Giselle is 1841. We are moving through the 19th century. It's again one of the major, if not the biggest, romantic ballet in the dance world. And I want to say you also something, not especially because of this, because there is another person involved in Giselle who set some really high aesthetic expectations for us. It's one of the original story from Giselle is a romantic German tale from Heinrich Heine, and it's called Die Willis. And there were two French also, again, men. One of them is Théophile Gautier, who was one of the major novelists, writers, poets, art critics in the 19th century in France, and he gets together with another man, and they write the libretto for this ballet. And Théophile Gautier had a lot of influence, and I would like to quote him what he said. Literally, he stated, "Art is beauty, the perpetual invention of detail, the exquisite care of execution." And 200 years later, dance, especially what comes from classical dance, we're still under the spell cast by these words, because we're going to be moving towards the classicism. I want to tell you something, also to give you a bit of context. To be going to the theater on the 19th century to watch ballet, I was thinking these days, it has to be something like going to the biggest dome, IMAX, 3D, cinema to watch the biggest blockbuster in science fiction at the moment, which is winning all the Oscars. People were going to watch ballet to see the impossible. You have to understand that At that moment, ballet was a groundbreaking field. It was developing politics, it was developing all the techniques that we know now in the theater world. I mean, they have to make fly woman because this was required on the ballet. This was not existing. Like the costumes, they have to come longer because at the moment you do this kind of movements, the feet disappear and you see woman floating and sliding. So all this was happening there when all these ballets and these aesthetics expectations, they are being set, and they're being set very, very, very high. Okay, I'm just going fast. This is called La Bayadère. It's 1877. It's choreographed by Marius Petipa, and now we find ourselves in the classical ballet domain. So what happens? Tutus and costumes, they get shorter. Everything is about the classical. So we are coming back also thousands of years ago with reminiscence. So as tutus are shortened, the lines become more present, are fundamental. The structures of the choreographies, they become very sophisticated. And here we go with another aesthetic expectation. The execution of the technique of the grammar becomes essential. Like that now we are going to the mastering of the technique. Jumping again, this is the first neoclassical ballet in history, 1928, and another big name is Georges Balanchine. For some of you, for sure, is very well known. And this is the first neoclassical ballet in the history of dance, and the name is Apollo. So we're still coming back in time. We're still moving with the same classical expectations, abstract narratives that brings us back to idealize antiquity times, lines, harmony. It sounds familiar. We're still on the domains of the history of aesthetics. Okay, and now this is a really big qualitative jump, okay? I'm coming at the beginning of the 21st century, very fast. And this is a photography of a Quiet Evening of Dance, William Forsythe, 2016. And for me and for many of us, William Forsythe is the most important living choreographer at the moment. And what Bill did is something. He found a way to keep alive what is ballet and what is neoclassical. And he's been called and he's been named many times like the deconstructor of dance. Okay, you saw me before doing this. I'm being for sure, very placative and very simple for all of you. This is our alphabet. No, we say like this is first, this is second, okay, this is third, this is fourth, fifth, etc. These are like the little sticks we build up. And what he said is like he realized like if we take apart the alphabet, as we could do with a language, we can start talking and building up the blocks in a different way. So why we don't start realizing with all the different relationships, this still can be the same relationships, you know what I mean? This is the first, this is what I'm doing. I can still do all this. So I can create, and I have much more tools that I think. So this is very simple and very placative what Bill did. I want to show you a video, if I manage to do it. This is Quiet Evening of Dance, 2016. Because this is another super heavy aesthetic expectation we have on dance. And still, you cannot imagine how many people thinks, believes, and tell us that the dance cannot exist without music. And I have to remind and always say that dance is a completely independent form of art. And dancers, as humans that we are, we still can create our own musicality. So this is one of the biggest ones I still happening. And this is why I wanted to show you this work from Bill. And just almost finishing. Okay, and we are coming to the company where I'm working. As Julia said, I'm working the last almost 6 years and a half with the Dresden Frankfurt Dance Company. There was originally the Foresight Company, and this is a choreography of our artistic director, Jacopo Godani. It's called Hybrid, and this is the big ballet. Okay, where you see a bit, I've been very simple, showing all the lines through the centuries. What you see here is like we are becoming to a really extreme use of lines, extreme use of technique. We are using, without getting out of ourselves, the extremities, and we are getting to the point where it's like, this is the, how can I say, this is the limit of dance. If we do something else, it will be like contortionism, it will be like circus, it will be also something else, with all my respect. And we are becoming very equal. It doesn't matter anymore who is a woman, who is a female, and who is a man. It can be completely independent. And you see both of them coming to this, as I say, you can have very clear the reminiscences of a classical alphabet, grammar, or background, but the situation is not classical anymore. And now, after this so much talking, I want to show you a video, and I want to show you the why of, I've been throwing you aesthetic expectations that they are on us and what we do. If I can manage. Sorry. I'm gonna try to do it another way, which is gonna be better. Okay, and I'm gonna need help probably. Yes, sorry. Okay, so now after you hear me talking basically from the beginning of mankind and the last hundreds of years and having thrown you some aesthetic expectations that are on us, I just want to tell you what this solo represents for me and for the people I'm working with, because this solo belongs to a piece called Extinction of a Minor Species. This is a hair solo, it's a solo created with a woman and for a woman, but this solo for us means also the empower of a furtherance of an aesthetic resistance, to put it into words, or they are my words, because she is moving in a way like she is like counterbalancing all what I say to you from the hundreds of years. She's moving in a certain way that she is not supposed to move. She's creating beauty through ugliness in many moments. She's linking to the floor. She's very aware of her weight. She is not absolutely airborne. She is dancing as a man could do, and the body is becoming a narrative itself without putting any interpretation on top of it, which is a big, big difference what I was saying to you. So for us, this blending of classical shapes and this extreme aesthetics is a way to open a door to value what we understand as a beauty, to create a space for other kind of beauty, also to reevaluate what we think about beauty in society or in a microcosmos, no? In the dance world, in a dance company, and to reimagine all of us what we can perceive as a beauty, and also to allow this vision of beauty beyond all these aesthetic expectations that we've been carrying through the centuries. So I hope I throw some impulse and some input here. So thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much for listening.